Well, some of the regulars have got problems, so they may not be here, will not be here. So
It seems like we have a small group so far.
we have a small group so far for an interesting subject.
As is usually the case.
So the first question I have is how many of you were familiar with the term before this topic came out?
For me, I had not heard the term.
Nor I.
Nor I.
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it up, because it's something that's floating around right now.
And certainly I've heard the other half of the term.
You know, the transhumanism.
Oh, no, the pronatalism.
Oh, pronatalism, yeah.
Well, it's part of what should I say, a program in South Korea where women don't want to date, don't want to have sex, don't want to have children, don't want to marry. So it's part of that.
Yeah, it seems to have gone farther back though. It's really the question: do we want to between the expense and the position of the world? Do we really want to bring a child into this world?
There was a song, where was it, back in the 60s? One of the lines was, "You've hurled the worst fear that's ever been hurled, the fear to bring children into the world."
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it didn't stop procreation in its tracks.
No, no.
But I can see from the looks of this group, I think we're all pretty, pretty functionally antinatal.
At this point in my life, yes.
Yes.
That's right. And
I mean,
I appreciate that you said anti-natal rather than antenatal.
Well, I had a vasectomy after my son was born. So yeah, I'm kind of down on having babies right now in my life.
What about grandchildren?
I have one on the way coming in August. My son married a university professor, and she's going to deliver in August. Yeah.
Just curious. My wife and I have 4 children between us, and 2 of them, the 2 females, have opted not to have children, and the 2 males have had grandsons for us. So mixed results in our family. My daughter, I think, one of the cleverest things she ever said to me, that she said, "Dad, I've decided not to have children because I know I'm too selfish." I, I have to admit, one of the more honest
Answer
summations I've ever heard.
Kudos for honesty. Well, it certainly tossed the Malthusian argument and the 1972 Rome project on its head.
Well,
And
Norman decided. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Norman decided not to have children when I think he was like 19 or 20 years of age. He was in college and had a vasectomy.
Yeah.
And it may have been a good decision. Some people are naturally, they want to be parents and are going to be pretty good at it, and others, no. They're just not patient enough. They don't have the whatever that's needed.
And my wife and I each have 2 children, a boy and a girl, and Both of the girls have uh, children, and one of the boys have children, so I guess there are 5 grandkids. So, uh, there's been procreation going on. Oh, here comes Norman in in my family.
Well, a friend of mine has decided not to have kids because of his genetic markers towards a certain disease.
Right, right. Now it seems to me, uh, behind all of this stuff, there is the very real question of what is the value of a human life? Well, you're shaking your head,
The
Norman. You
argument
like it.
is, the argument is, should people suffer? Should newborns suffer for having been born?
No, I'd say there's
Well,
a more
That's
fundamental question than that. I don't think that's the question. Well, let's put it this way, to get right to the point, is it immoral for them to have children? Because that's the claim, is that it's immoral.
I would
and
say for others than us, those others should not have children because they're apt to be dumb.
but again, it's still related. The whole issue behind it is like I had asked before, what is the value of a human life? Certainly, we know there's suffering. The Buddha said all people suffer, but he still said uh, that that's not the end of the story.
But the argument of giving birth to those who will suffer is an interesting question.
Certainly,
Yeah.
if
Would you bring a child into the world of Sudan right now?
You know, that is a very good case, Bob. And surely not.
Of course, the other thing is why do we have kids when there's so many out there that we could adopt?
Well, and I was thinking about exactly about adoption versus birthing family members. For adoption in the US and likely other countries, you had to certify that you're good and so forth. But to have a baby, no certification is necessary.
None at all. None at all. And the whole idea of immigration to help out declining populations can also be solved by adoption from places that have too many children who are going to die and be brought into a country that needs to have future children in order for them to supply the needs of the older populations that will occur.
No, like all the Ukrainian surrogate wombs.
now
Common.
there's another issue in a lot of places in the world where there are not good social security systems for the aged, and the children become the caretakers for uh, the older generations, like it was in India. If you're an oldest son there, the expectation is that you will end up taking care of your mother and father in their older year. And one of the men that I knew had an older brother who was ready for his task, but his older brother died. And then all of a sudden, this task was thrust upon him, and he wasn't ready at all.
Well, you know, way back when,
I'll have Carol call you back, Lourdes.
way back when, I forget if it was the first daughter or the second daughter, but there was a designated daughter to take care of the parents that didn't marry.
Mm-hmm.
And I also remember about 20 years or so ago, I'm talking to my Mexican friends about their large families, and they who came up to work in the United States to send money home. They said, well, the reason we have large families is because that's our Social Security.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
But the point of the daughters taking care with ultrasounds of the embryo, then there's the female potential babies are killed.
Right. And certainly that was a problem in China and in India, and I bet elsewhere.
Oh,
Yes.
Korea as well, believe me. South Korea.
Yeah, and I'm sure the American Indian had that too. The Native Americans.
Yeah, I don't know, but I bet you're right.
Yeah.
You know, because that was still the Native Americans were absolutely a family culture.
Of course, if you listen to James in his critique, he wrote me, he says it doesn't matter anyway, you know, we're all going to be extinct via various.
Well, we're all going to
Yeah.
die. You know,
We're all gonna die
we
and-
know
and
that.
Yeah, we're all going to die, but the human race is going to become extinct
Well,
regardless.
we'll find
Because
out.
of
We don't
environmental
know. There'll
factors.
be something that follows it, just like with the other extinctions. It wasn't the end of life. It was just the end of that
Human life.
form.
It'll be the end of human life. And the resilience of Mother Earth is just amazing if you look back over the geological eras.
A side issue. Helene, could you move your camera so we see your face,
Oh,
not just your eyes?
sure.
Or you can sit on a phone book.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably what I'll end up having to do.
Helene is an old friend from Vancouver who actually introduced Kathy and I.
And,
Oh.
you know, I'm glad to see a woman here because so far it's just men talking about procreating and having families. And the issue is a lot different, I hear, for women.
Just a bit. Just a bit. Yep.
You know, and what I'm used to from my uh, earlier uh, marriage was my wife or my daughter asking my wife, my 6-year-old daughter asking my wife, why can't I walk down the street to visit my friends? And my wife was afraid for her safety. And I was saying, sure, she can walk down the street.
Yep. Yeah, I know.
Keaton and I remember when our youngest brother, Eric, walked into a rebel encampment.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
goodness.
And then walked back and he was talking to the staff and the staff came to Mother and said he was in rebel camp.
Oh
And
my
Mother had to dissuade
gosh.
him from going back to that location. where
Oh
they
my,
received him fine
And what country was that?
in
Argentina.
Argentina.
So
Ah,
the rebels really
oh
were
my
rebels.
Oh, yeah.
God.
Serious
Gosh.
killing rebels, yes.
Not like the ones in America with the Confederate flags playing games.
Oh, yeah, there's those.
No,
Yeah,
Well,
no, it,
oddly enough, this is unrelated, but I thought this morning about the rebels in Argentina when the uh, fighting came close to a radio station. The radio station would just play music
oh,
because the microphones would indicate the bombing and gunfire.
ah.
Okay. Okay.
okay.
So
That makes sense.
what do you think of the argument of selfishness? You know, the fact that I want to live my life, and babies cost me money and time and grievance, and they're not worth it.
Well, you
Well,
see that argument in the declining birth rate in the civilized countries. And the reason why the birth rate is declining from one point of view is that instead of kids being an asset like they are to the farmer, kids are a cost. And you have to have uh, money, significant money often, to be able to support them and raise them.
And this was part of the issue why I had a vasectomy at 21. It wasn't just the midnight calls that my period didn't arrive, but
yeah,
the thought of trying to properly support a child, I just couldn't
Hi, everyone.
conceive I
Uh-huh.
could do it.
Uh-huh.
women
whereas
are the young women that I'm around, that are,
You
you
can
know, in
make it
their
open if you
21 to 28, don't want children because, and I'm quoting one of them, men don't hang around. And I thought about that statement for a long time. And then I talked to the young lady again because I meet with him about once a week. And the men that they're dating and they're involved with right now are more on the selfish end because they want toys, boy toys, you know,
But
whatever.
Yes.
Helene, there's a big issue, and New York Times just explored it, of the injury of motherhood.
Yeah,
Well, motherhood has always been a perilous proposition,
that's true. That is very true.
you know, and
And
if you
this,
look at death rates for women through time, childbirth has been one of the big causes of death.
yes. And
But
unfortunately,
partners killing them
also,
is common.
motherhood denying women a role in society other than being a caretaker
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and
is
this has
damaging to
been
the
brought
person and to
forward.
society.
Yeah.
And that's
And the
part of the
sad,
reason of the low birth rate in Korea. The women want to have a life, not be limited by the role of the Korean mother.
Mhm.
which is a lot of the women are feeling that way now. My young granddaughter, who's 27, has 2 children. And she said if she had it to do over again, that would never happen,
Uh-huh.
ever. Because again, there's no father. And a
Which
lot
is
of times women pick, unfortunately, they pick men that are not ready for fatherhood. And I think what I'm seeing with a lot of these young ladies that are dating these young men, a lot of these young men are not at 28
hmm
ready for fatherhood. And it,
I know I didn't get married for real until I was in my 30s for just exactly that reason, because I was self-aware enough to know how young and stupid I was.
but most people aren't self-aware, and that's the sad part. And that's the thing that I see even with this young lady, my
Uh-huh.
granddaughter. She's not even aware half the time of what's going on.
Well, it starts with all
You
these
know,
hormones that make us crazy.
that's
Well,
it, you know.
the genes that make us wish to procreate
Right.
uh, uh, dominate with men and women.
Exactly. Especially in their 20s and early 30s.
And certainly women
That's
are taught from
that's
the time that they are little children to get ready for childbirth with toys like dolls and stuff like this that they
yeah,
learn how to care for by the time they're 3.
yeah. And
No,
the
you're
sad part,
right. You're right, Richard. It is not just hormonal genetics,
no.
but societal
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And
prepares
that's the biggie.
young males and females differently.
Except
Exactly.
that you're seeing a reversal in that trend with the Gen Zs.
Yeah.
Yes,
The Gen Zs
that's true.
are not having sex,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
I
they.
Well,
still can't believe it.
that's just wrong. No,
I agree, but
uh,
it's what it is. They've gone from at least 50% down to 25%. One in
Wow.
four not having sex.
horrible, horrible.
I mean, one in four having sex, three out of four not
Right.
having sex.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like not eating good food, not
But
having other enjoyments,
yeah, but that's my
not not
granddaughter.
not
Well, I
having
wonder how
sex
much of
with
the Gen Z
friends.
is building screen relationships instead of in-person relationships, because it's hard to have sex with your screen.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of it is that is the fact that they don't know how to interact.
Hmm?
Because they're too involved in their screens.
Yes.
Mhm.
I am seeing that with all these young girls. My heavens,
Uh-huh.
they can't even talk to the male species without problems arising.
Of
And I
course,
listen to my granddaughter talking to the male species, and I'm just like, oh my heavens, child.
and looking at the male species in that Gen Z range, why would you want to talk to them?
Well, don't even go there.
And that problem issue is not
Go
just in
there.
America. My wife and I were traveling in Nicaragua about 12 years ago before we decided to move to Mexico, and we were in some little town up in the mountains, and we went into some cafe, and there were young people there, and the young people there all had the screens in front of them and having the screen life when they were sitting in the middle of a group.
My granddaughter, when she was dating this young man, they came over one night. She sat on the couch with him. They had a comedy show on or something. Both of them were sitting there next to each other in
Watching
the
the
screens.
TV, but watching their screens.
Exactly. And texting to whatever they were doing. And I thought, how do how do you even have a conversation? They don't. That surprised the heck out of me. They didn't talk hardly at all.
And the thing about this talking is the dealing with and interacting with other live human beings
Not
is
happening.
actually the most complicated thing we do, and
Yes.
that makes the most mental demands and emotional demands on us. And if you don't have that experience, no wonder uh, they're all assholes.
But,
Totally
this is a whole issue of partnerships that
true.
Gen Z don't adhere to.
No, no, they don't look at. I asked my granddaughter, I said, why do you do that? And she said, what? And I said, you don't talk to
Like
each other,
what?
you don't do anything. And she said, what's there to talk about? And I thought, what? What do you mean what's there to talk? I Yeah,
Expectedly, she would not do well with psychologist.
no, she doesn't. Even her counselor tells her that she doesn't know how to talk. And I know that because when we try to talk, she gets lost and I don't even know where she goes. I mean, she
And
just,
so, with these people, my wife's daughter then has two children who uh, are more involved in screens than anybody was in my generation.
oh yeah.
My son has two children that also, again, know the screens better than people, and when they're being visited by grandparents, it's hard to break through the screens and have a human interaction with them.
No,
And
and
that is really
we
hard.
don't have generally adequate telehealth for
Mm-mm.
psychological issues. I have a psychologist who does offer video chats
Uh-huh.
so that people who are distant can communicate and
That's
help
good.
resolve issues. But Gen Zs, if they can't discuss it with themselves, can they discuss it with telehealth?
Now, they get in with Gen Z, one of the things that still is popular is the internet chat-based therapy,
Yes.
and they can disclose more to a computer than they can to another
Mhm.
human being. So at one level, you can argue that there is a benefit to it, just as long as they're not talking to a chat box that tells them to go run in traffic in the street.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
Or Richard, collect too much data.
yeah. So what do you think of the idea that motherhood should come with a warning label that is bad for your health?
Absolutely correct.
Where
There
do you put the label?
should be warnings that while this
uh,
perfect thing happens, it may not be perfect for you.
I got struck by
Well, and
one,
as I
one
tried to interject earlier, that often partners kill their pregnant partners.
yes.
This happens with great frequency.
Yes.
It's a huge threat. It's much more of a threat than, say, dying during childbirth.
Mhm.
It's the partner.
And
Huh.
Very dangerous.
that's true. There's a lot of men that just, it tips them over the edge
Yeah, they snap.
and they just, they lose it.
Yep.
And one of her partners with one of her sons is now a full-blown drug addict and he's running the streets because he does not want a child. And it's sad to see him go down this way, but that's what happened. And that's where he's at. He's living in his car doing drugs.
And
Yeah.
this is a strong argument against birthing offspring.
Yeah.
If people are not able themselves to cope adequately,
Yeah.
they really should not be involved in bearing or raising offspring.
But that, again, the hormones at that age, they don't
Are
think about
powerful.
that.
Well,
Yeah.
For me,
the
one of the
hormones
other
are to
issues,
engage in sex. The
Well,
hormones are not to procreate.
but they don't think about that. They don't think about, oh, this could happen. I mean, I've dealt with a lot of young ladies that have had babies without the daddy, and 25 years of experience tells me that is not a thought that happens.
uh now in my case, my father, when I was born, was away at World War II, and so he wasn't
That's
around
different.
till I was 2 years old. And when he did get around, he told my mother he couldn't stand me, and they got divorced by the time I was 6. And though he was uh, ordered to pay child support, he never did.
Yep.
And I never got a letter from him during my childhood and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the reasons why I waited until my 30s to have a serious marriage is I was trying to figure out what a man was without having a man around as an
Mm-hmm.
example. And that has to be the situation for these children and the families that you were talking about, with the women there with their
Mm-hmm.
children without a male partner. And
And
so
I
this
see a
getting
lot of that.
socialized and learning what
Yeah.
the roles are and how to do it, uh,
Well, this is
you're
where
on
little,
your own.
yeah. Well, this is where little girls learn to be part of a male partnership
Right,
because
and
they have,
trusting.
if they have a daddy,
Yeah, they learn to
you know,
trust.
yes,
Of
if the
course,
daddy's a good man.
of course, now you have a different model. You have the situations where you have two moms or two dads.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. And
And
a lot of times those roles are filled, even though they're male or
Right,
female,
they're not
female.
filled in traditional ways.
Yeah, but they're still filled because one is usually the male and one is usually the female, whether
One's
they're
dominant.
male or female.
But the issue brought up, I think by Bob, of Sudan, would it be correct to birth in Sudan, where the baby is most apt to die from starvation?
Here, let's use even a worse case, Gaza.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
however,
No, Gaza is the most newsworthy, Richard.
yeah,
Sudan is the largest issue.
yeah, yeah, just from the size of the population.
In Gaza, the Israelis are killing what? Just 100 people a day or something.
And Sudan is
Sudan, the
20,000.
number of people starving to death is much greater than that. Fortunately, USAID providing food has been dismantled,
yeah.
only
Anyway,
resulting in
getting
the probable or estimated deaths of 300,000 people.
we're getting off topic here.
A little bit.
Yeah, myself, I decided I didn't want to marry until I was 37 years old. And that made a huge impact because I had the maturity.
Hmm.
At the time, I'd saved money and continued to save money. We had 2 children, and you guys all know the result. My daughter graduated from Wellesley. She has 2 master's degrees now. My son has a doctorate or two. So waiting makes a huge difference.
It's that
And
maturity.
yeah, you need the maturity. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
being prepared and desiring parenthood.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
So,
But
Absolutely.
mothers don't necessarily have the same choices because they may enter into motherhood without desiring that to be the case.
Well, the other thing that you mentioned was that you end up in many cases with no father present. And as Freakonomics argued, the sons growing up without a father to emulate,
Well, also the
the
son,
crime rate went through the roof.
I
Violent
can
crimes
speak
committed
to
by
it.
males.
Also, there's
That's
another
true.
issue without the son having the support of the father, then things like college become much, much less possible.
Yep.
So when I went to college first, I was kind of working on the side to pay for it. And then when I found out I wasn't ready for college, I joined the military, and when I came out, I had GI Bill to help me. But during that period, my father wasn't there at all.
so before we go too far off tack, let's take a look at the other side of this. Is this question really moot with the transhumanist movement, where we're all going to be saved and go into immortality based on future medical advances and cybernetic advances? And are we just all going to eventually become AI? And
No,
our
this
consciousness
question
into
of
some sort of machine.
our minds surviving, our thoughts surviving after our bodies have left us is
Or
really interesting.
or the thought that with the medical advances that we are more cyber than we are human.
But I think, for me, as I think about those issues, I'm 81, and I think none of those issues are going to affect me. And so a little bit it's like arguing about how many angels can dance on the head of a pin.
Yeah, it may not affect us, Richard, but it's going to affect our children and grandchildren.
Sure, sure.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think at that point in time, they'll be the ones to decide which way it's going to go. I'm seeing changes in young people that I'm around, and they're like, I don't want to be in a nursing home or a rehab or a retirement center. A lot of them are like, I'd just rather die.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are actually thinking that, if they get to a certain age and things are bad, they just want to commit suicide and be done with it.
Hmm.
And I'm
Well,
like,
the
wow.
the dignity of life is another
Yeah.
issue. But the assumption here is that with medical advances, with nano advances, with AI advances, you can be a productive human being, a productive part of society, and still live towards immortality. So birth rates become immaterial because we have a population that extends itself
But I
knowledge.
strongly suspect that the population that extends itself will be the population that has money. It's hard to
Yeah, yeah.
see the farmer in India using medical advances, buying medical advances to make his body immortal. So it'll be for the rich
At
guys.
the same time that the Indians are taking insecticides or whatever to commit suicide, uh, having a pill to terminate people's lives appropriately would be great. We have pills to avoid uh, embryos being born, fertilized, but we don't generally have a thought of how you can take a
Easy
pill
ways to die.
and remove yourself. And that is the largest cost of the U.S. medical system is for people in their
In the
last
last
year
year.
when
That's right.
they may not wish to have that pain and suffering that we talked about of babies entering the world. But it's how we exit the world too.
That doesn't really speak to the question of transhumanism, the extension of life through technological means, and what that means for the future.
I agree that the wealthy people are the ones that are going to extend their lives, and they may make an intellectual contribution of value, but the reality is what we need is a lot of people that'll be garbage collectors, carpenters,
Right.
you know,
And
Yes.
plumbers.
street sweepers. Yeah, no, that's the problem. And even today, trying to find a plumber is a nightmare here in Honolulu. No, because
It's
people
yeah.
are all trying to go to college, have huge debts for their college,
Mhm.
and then they can't even find appropriate jobs for their level of their education. So immigrants have in the past in America filled that void. They came in and they started out as garbage collectors or whatever, and eventually maybe got a trade such as a carpenter or plumber. And we need that fresh blood, if you wish, coming in. It's a disaster, of course. I'm not going to get into politics at this point because we'd go all day then. But no, we need
No,
immigrants,
but this
Yeah.
issue of
young immigrants
low birth
willing to do
rates
those jobs we don't
in the
want to do.
low birth rates in the U.S. and China and Russia and France and other places in Europe, the antinatalism is a big damn deal.
Yeah,
Indeed.
they have to take in immigrants.
But unfortunately, people don't see that side of the situation. They don't see that side of the equation. And all the things that are happening now, we're destroying the hierarchy that we had with all these immigrants and the things that they were doing. And now, when you go to the store, you can see the empty shelves. You can see the high prices that these immigrants that were picking strawberries or whatever, fixing the lawns, it's not happening. And our kids and here in America, they're not going to do that kind of stuff because they've never been trained to do it. And they've always been told it's a poor man's job. So we have all
Yeah.
this bias
No,
going on
your
top of everything else.
your point is valid. Anti-immigration related to anti birth is a big damn deal.
Yes. Yes.
Because we could have a low birth rate and have a higher immigration.
Mhm. Yeah.
Paul, you haven't commented lately, and what's the view from Canada?
Well, my boat's back from Canada, so I'm in Maine getting it ready to sell. So it's kind of a sad process, but that's time to change the pattern of my life. Boating has been central for about 28 years now. I guess it's time to do something else. So my wife and I
Bye.
spent 6 weeks in Europe recently and decided that we really could get along traveling together, which was it was an experiment because I've always traveled with crew on my boat, but not my wife. So so I think we'll do some traveling together. We sort of worked out some of the bugs, but after 32 years, I mean, there's still progress to be made.
Yeah.
That's big progress.
Do you
I
have any observations from your travels in Europe on this subject at all?
on the subject of antinatalism.
And transhumanism?
Not really. I would say the biggest thing we came away with was that it seemed like a much more pleasant place to live than the United States. The public facilities are nicer, public transportation, just the pace of life. This was Austria and Germany, not known for, lax living, but
Keaton can comment on Japanese, which have a somewhat greater birth rate than South Korea, but
Yeah.
very nominal,
Yeah.
and how that has benefited the Japanese culture.
Well, actually, my son and his wife just came back from Japan, and they noticed that her being obviously pregnant was welcomed by everyone. They were treated so generously because she was obviously pregnant. It's
Yeah.
a society, obviously, that does think that pregnancy and having babies is a good thing. Unfortunately, not very many Japanese women are having children, but society favors it.
No, the Japanese replacement rate is negative.
Yes. They're
That's
below
still way
replacement level.
above the South Korean. The South Korean replacement rate now, I think the the average number of children per woman in South Korea is 0.8, where
Yeah.
about 2.1 is replacement. So they
Yeah.
have an immense crisis that is heading towards them like a train wreck.
Yes.
But I've got to say, whether I've had a good shit in the morning makes more difference to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, certainly,
Thanks for that.
the issues that are closer at hand are the things that get our attention. That's part of the problem of being a human being.
Yeah,
Well, I have.
and some of us in Mexico are going through a tremendous societal change. Uh, uh, the birth rate for fertile women has diminished to European standards.
Mm-hmm.
The
Part of
female,
it is education. When women are educated, they have fewer children.
Yeah.
That's true.
Paul, you were
Very
going to
close
say
correlation.
something and you didn't get a chance to. What was it?
I wanted to connect a couple of dots.
Okay,
Um, as I've confessed, I have a philosophical background. So I was looking at this antinatalism more from its philosophical roots. And it's a disagreement I have with humanism in general, but the author just assumes that avoiding harm and pain is the single highest and probably only moral value.
Right.
And so when you mention the deaths at places like Darfur and around the world, which may result from the cancellation of the USAID, that may be true, but it might possibly be an example that there are other values which are held to be moral besides avoiding harm and pain.
But what is the good is a real question. That's what I was getting at when I was saying, what is the value of a human life?
Well, all this discussion takes me back to the movie Soylent Green.
Green, yeah, yeah,
That people who can't contribute beneficially really are not necessary. Unfortunately, that involves most of us.
Eventually, yeah.
yeah.
I'm
But
just
then again, some of the people that I work with or deal with, even that are way older than me, I find they have gifts that I don't have.
Right.
And to me, losing them takes those gifts away, and we don't have those here. But are other people aware of that? Do they even look at us old people like that? I don't know. I don't see it.
The avoidance of sin cities, sun cities, and whatever, where the old people are isolated
Exactly.
from the rest of.
the question of the wisdom of elders and how it's appreciated or not appreciated in various societies and cultures.
And, the question I have in my own life is then, how can I express it? How can I find vehicles to share this stuff with others? And that still is actually something that I spend most of my time on, is trying to find ways to do that.
But the issue, had you not had those offspring, would that not be better? Anti-nationalism,
Who knows? Who
natalism.
knows?
Well,
So Paul, I wanted to go back to you on your question on philosophy and the dilemma of non-existence versus the dilemma of potentiality. In other words, the potentiality of an existent person being brought into the world versus the non-existence of that potentiality by not being created.
well, I can't think fast enough on my feet to tell you exactly
no,
how it's relevant. But what came to mind?
basically, the question is birthing some person, causing them to endure the suffering of being a person.
But to have the
Is
joy of
is
being a
that a
person.
correct thing?
Well,
Okay.
go ahead and finish your thought because I was curious about it.
Well, I'm reminded of, Aristotle, who said that potentiality only becomes actuality through limitation. I mean, potentiality is infinite.
Yes.
and it doesn't become actual until something limits it. So there may be infinite potential for our next offspring or grand offsprings, but that potential will never be actualized except through limitation. In other words, by their actually being born, if you want to get existential. So my trouble with David Bannatyne is that he's making the assumption that the only value is related to the individual. And this is, ironically, this fits right in with neoliberalism and capitalism. But in fact, if we decided that there are other values like societal values,
Right.
having children and contributing to society may be, to your question, Richard, may be a, a value.
Now, one always comes back to the world's richest person, Elon Musk, who believes that those he has created will benefit the world.
Yeah.
And he has created many.
The shotgun approach.
But I'd like to look at this thing of suffering. I don't see suffering to be such a horrible thing. There is no good without evil. It's a balance that exists always.
A
And,
natural development process.
yeah. And yeah, I've suffered, but I've also enjoyed so much. And I enjoy it, I think, all the more for realizing that I'm not suffering. And as I said at the beginning of this, I've been through quite a bit of trauma, whether it was Tiananmen Square or the invasion of Kuwait, or for that matter, the worst cyclone in Fiji in more than 50 years. So I've had some bad experiences, to be sure. I haven't gone to war, which I think would be much worse. But when the clouds leave and it's a sunny day and so forth, you really appreciate it because you've been through bad things. So
But
I don't see suffering.
I still have the issue of pets. Pets unrelated to births, because pets always love us. When we have natural births, no. In adolescence or terrible twos, who has ever enjoyed that?
Mothers and
I was
father.
gonna say,
I
yeah,
enjoyed that too. It's just you take the one thing with the other,
The good
and
with the bad. Yeah,
but certainly it
absolutely.
is said if you're in politics and you want a friend, get a dog.
yeah, yeah. I have a 2-year-old great grandson that is with me daily, and he's just turning 2. And there are days, I'm 78, so there are days that
Mhm.
I'm like, oh. But yet overall, I appreciate what that child is giving to me.
That's right. So there's suffering and there's joy, and
Exactly.
the
Yeah,
joy for me outweighs the suffering. Now, I haven't had
yeah.
my arm in a meat grinder or anything like that.
No,
So,
yeah. But I don't, that part of it to me is not suffering. That's part of what I consider living life. Suffering is like going through some of what Keaton said. Suffering is losing, like I just lost my grandson. That
mhm.
that's
Well,
that's a horrible place to be.
But
the Buddha talked
the
about,
other issue for me is procreation versus society, because at least in the American indigenous people, children were raised communally,
Yeah.
not in a family.
Yeah.
And I've always thought communal raising of children is procreates the society beneficially.
And I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And the sad part is that a lot of people don't realize that it takes a community, as they say, to raise a child. That's, I mean, to me, that always seemed like the way to do it. I had grandparents that stuck with me. I had great grandparents. And then I had my family, my mother. So I had a lot of aunts and uncles. So I got that kind of nurturing from that. But that doesn't happen in society today.
that's not typical in
No,
America anyway. There are
no,
lots of other,
not in
in
America.
Mexico, in India, that is the
Yeah.
case.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've lived in Italy and I've lived in England, and they're very family, quote, oriented. You know, you're going to your grandparents, you're going to your aunties, whatever. And that's just accepted. That's okay. That's good.
To
So
me, the issue is raising offspring communally in society rather than in partnerships. And I see the communal raising of offspring in much of the world
yes,
has not been birth fathers and mothers. And I think that is a good approach.
mhm. But we're all heading more towards the AI concept, and I'm not sure where this is going to go. This really
On that
bothers
note-
me.
On that note, we've exceeded our hour.
Oh.
And thank you all for conversation. In your last remark, I'm not sure that this group is accepting the concept of the Jetsons and living like the Jetsons do with all their AI helpers.
Although I like the concept of the dog.
Although it's been an interesting conversation. Our next month, our discussion is been suggested by Paul Bennett. And the topic is, can capitalism have a social conscience? And we will debate that issue.
Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you
well,
again.
thank you,
hosting.
Bob.
Anyone have any final thoughts they want to say before I close her down?
I just have a question for you, Bob.
Yeah.
Since you've kind of been organizing this group and thinking about it, I just had this sort of fantasy, what if I just turn Chat GPT on and let it listen to this conversation and use my voice to participate in it? Would anybody
The issue is not
anybody know?
being a contributory to the discussion.
Well,
Oh,
interesting.
it would contribute. It would contribute.
Interesting enough, Paul,
Just
Zoom has a feature, if we wanted to use it, that would summarize the discussion and also tell us the action steps needed to fulfill the discussion.
Oh, wow. See, I'm
And
glad I asked.
I use that feature on when I have like in the UU, I run a music team discussion to create what's happening in the UU as far as music. and where we're going. And then ask the AI for both, the Zoom AI for both a summary of the meeting and the action steps that were required. And they print out a summary for me of both.
To be a good meeting secretary.
Yes, that way I
Yeah.
don't have to have a secretary.
No, what Bob has not said, Bob uses AI to uncover the discussions and proceedings of the choir.
Well, it's partially true, but I do on my own research.
Anyway,
I look at AI.
adios. I'm gonna
Yep.
go
It's that
out.
time.
See you
Adios.
all next time.
Yep.
It was
we'll-
nice talking
Take
with
care.
y'all.
Bye.